Hello and welcome to
Wednesday's Night Out
with your host Joseph, Turnpike Plaza 365 Rec Squad. Getting things done. The art of stress-free productivity. From the New York Times best-selling author David Allen. Part 2. Practicing stress-free productivity. Chapter 5. Capturing, Corralling your stuff. In Chapter 2, I described the basic procedures for capturing your potential work and meaningful input. This chapter will lead you in more detail through the process of getting all your incompletes, all your stuff into one place, into N. That's the critical first step in getting to the state of mind like water. Just gathering a few more things than you currently have will probably create a positive feeling for you. But if you can hang in there and really do the whole capturing process 100%, it will change your experience dramatically and give you an important new reference point for being on top of the world, on top of your work and your world. When I coach a client through the process, the capture phase usually takes between 1 and 6 hours, though it did take an entire 20 hours with one person. Finally, I told him, you get the idea. It can take longer than you think if you are committed to a full-blown collection that will include everything at work and everywhere else. That means going through every storage area, including your computers, and every nook and cranny in every location, including cars, boats, and other garages and homes, if you have them. Be assured that if you give yourself at least a couple of hours to tackle this part, you can grab the major portion of things outstanding. And you can even capture the rest by creating relevant placeholding notes. For example, purge and process, boat storage, shed, and deal with hall closets. Until you've captured everything that has your attention, some part of you will still not totally trust that you're working with the whole picture of your world. In the real world, you probably won't be able to keep your stuff 100% collected all the time. If you're like most people, you'll move too fast and be engaged in too many things during the course of a week to get all your ideas and commitments captured outside your head. But it should become an ideal standard that keeps you motivated to consistently clean house of all the things about your work and life that have your attention. Ready, set. There are very practical reasons to gather everything before you start clarifying it. It can be daunting to capture in one location at one time all the things that don't belong where they are. It may even seem a little counterintuitive because, for the most part, most of the stuff was not and is not that important. That's why it's still lying around. It wasn't an urgent thing when it first showed up, and probably nothing's blown up yet because it hasn't been dealt with. It's the business card you put in your wallet on somebody you thought you might want to contact sometime. It's the little piece of techno gear in the bottom desk drawer that you're missing a part for or haven't had the time to install properly. It's the printer that you keep telling yourself you're going to move to a better location in your office. These are the kinds of things that nag at you, but that you haven't decided either to deal with or to drop entirely from your list of open loops. But because you think there still could be something important in there, that stuff is controlling you and taking up more of your energy than it deserves. You can only feel good about what you're not doing when you know everything you're not doing. So it's time to begin. Grab your in tray and half-inch stack of plain paper for your notes and let's go. Physical gathering. The first activity is to search your physical environment for anything that doesn't permanently belong where it is, the way it is, and put it into your in tray. You'll be gathering things that are incomplete, things that have some decision about potential action tied to them. They all go into N, so they'll be available for later processing. What stays where it is? The best way to create a clean decision about whether something should go into the in tray is to understand clearly what shouldn't go in. Here are the 4 categories of things that can remain where they are, the way they are, with no action tied to them. Supplies, reference material, decoration, equipment. Supplies include anything you need to keep because you use it regularly. Stationery, business cards, stamps, staples, post-it pads, paper clips, ballpoint refills, batteries, forms you need to fill out from time to time, rubber bands. All of these qualify. Many people also have a personal supplies drawer at work containing dental floss, Kleenex, breath mints, and so on. Reference material is anything you simply keep for information as needed, such as manuals for your software, the local takeout daily menu, your kids' sports team schedule, or your list of internal phone extensions. This category includes all your telephone and address information, any material relevant to projects, themes, and topics, and sources such as dictionaries, encyclopedias, almanacs, and bond archives of corporate records. It also includes books and magazines that you may be keeping as a library. Decoration means pictures of family, artwork, and fun and inspiring things pinned to your bulletin board. You also might have plaques, mementos, and or plants. Equipment is obviously your phone, computer, printer, scanner, wastebasket, furniture, clock, chargers, pens, and notebooks and notepads. You no doubt have a lot of things that fall into these four categories. Basically, all your tools and your gear which have no actions tied to them. Everything else goes into N. But many of the things you might initially interpret as supplies, reference, decoration, or equipment could also have action associated with them because they still aren't exactly the way they need to be. For instance, most people have in their desk drawers, on their shelves and bulletin boards, and tucked away in computer files a lot of materials and information that either are out of date or need to be organized somewhere else. Those should go into N. Likewise, if your supplies drawer is out of control, full of lots of dead or unorganized stuff, that's an incomplete that needs to be captured. Are the photos of your kids current ones? Is the artwork what you want on the wall? Are the mementos really something you still want to keep? Is the furniture precisely the way it should be? Is the computer set up the way you want it? Are the plants in your office alive? In other words, supplies, reference materials, decorations, and equipment may need to be tossed into the in tray if they're not just where they should be, the way they should be. Issues about capturing. As you engage in the capturing step, you may run into one or more of the following. You've got a lot more than will fit into one entry. You're likely to get derailed into purging and organizing. You may have some form of stuff already collected and organized, and or you're likely to run across some critical things that you want to keep in front of you. What if an item is too big to go in the in tray? If you can't physically put something in the in tray, then write a note on a piece of letter-sized plain paper to represent it. For instance, if you have a poster or other piece of artwork behind the door to your office, just write artwork behind door on a letter-sized piece of paper and put the paper in the in tray. Be sure to date it too. This has a couple of benefits. If your organized system winds up containing some of these pieces up of paper representing something else, it'll be useful to know when note was created. It's also just a great habit to date everything you handwrite, from post-it notes for assistant to voicemails you transfer onto a pad, to the note you take on a phone call with a client. If you are using a digital tool that has a date stamp function, it's great to use that for the same reason. The 3% of the time that this little piece of information will be extremely useful makes it worth developing the simple habit. What if the pile is too big to fit into the end tray? If you're like 98% of the people we work with individually, your initial gathering activity will collect much more than can be comfortably stacked in an end tray. If that's the case, just create stacks around the end tray and maybe even on the floor below it. Ultimately, you'll be eliminating the stacks as you process and organize everything. In the meantime, though, make sure that there's some obvious visual distinction between the stacks that are in and everything else. Instant dumping. If it's immediately evident that something is trash, go ahead and toss it when you see it. For some of my clients, this marks the first time they have ever cleaned their center desk drawer. If you're not sure what something is or whether it's worth keeping, go ahead and put it into N. You'll be able to decide about it later. When you process the N tray, what you don't want to do is to let yourself get wrapped up in things piece by piece, trying to decide this or that. Clarifying requires a very different mindset than capturing. It's best to do them separately. You'll process your stuff later anyway if it's in. And it's easier to make those kinds of choices when you're in that decision-making mode. The objective for the capturing process is to get everything into N as quickly as possible so you're appropriately retrenched and have drawn the battle lines. Be careful of the purge and organized bug. Many people get hit with the purge and organized bug. Many people get hit with the purge and organized virus as they're going through various areas of their office and their home. If that happens to you, it's okay. So as long it's okay as long as you have a major open window of time to get through the whole process, at least a whole week. No person who can read is ever successful at cleaning out an attic and landers. Otherwise, you'll need to break it up into chunks and capture them as little projects or actions to do with reminders in your system, like purge 4 drawer cabinet or clean office closet. What you don't want to do is let yourself get caught running down a rabbit trail cleaning up some piece of your work and then not be able to get through the whole action management implementation process. It may take longer than you think, and you want to go for the gold and finish processing all your stuff and setting up your system as soon as possible. What about things that are already on lists and in organizers? You may already have some list and some sort of organization system in place. But unless you're thoroughly familiar with this workflow processing model and have implemented it previously, I recommend that you treat those lists as items still to be processed, like everything else in N. You'll want your system to be consistent, and it'll be necessary to evaluate everything from the same viewpoint to get it that way. But I can't lose that thing. Often in the capturing process, someone will run across a piece of paper or a document that causes her to say, "Oh my God, I forgot about that. I've got to deal with that." It could be a note about a call she was supposed to handle 2 days before, or some meeting notes that reminded her of an action she was supposed to take weeks ago. She doesn't want to put whatever it is in the huge stack of other stuff in her end tray because she's afraid she might lose track of it. If that happens to you, first ask yourself if it's something that really has to be handled before you get through this initial implementation time. If so, best deal with it immediately so you get it off your mind. If not, go ahead and put it into N. You're going to get all that processed and emptied soon anyway, so it won't be lost. If you can't deal with the action in the moment, and you can just have to have the reminder right in front of you, go ahead and create an emergency stack somewhere close at hand. It's not an ideal solution, but it'll do. Keep in mind that some potential anxiousness is going to surface as you make your stuff more conscious to you than it seems. Create whatever supports you need. Start with your desktop. Ready now? Okay, start piling those things on your desk into N. Often there'll be numerous things right at hand that need to go in there. Many people use their whole desktop as in. If you're going, as in, if you're one of them, you'll have several stacks around you to begin your collection with. Start at one end of your workstation and move around, dealing with everything you come across. Typical items will be stacks of mail, memos, reports, reading materials, post-it notes, collected business cards, receipts, and meeting notes. Resist the urge to say, as almost everyone does initially, well, I know what's in that stack, and that's where I want to leave it. That's exactly what hasn't worked before. And it all needs to go into the end tray. I have never had anyone who gave in and actually put their familiar stacks through this system who didn't feel a ton of relief when they did. It's easy to resist and avoid picking up anything in your world that you know requires some thinking. As you go around your desktop, ask yourself if you have any intention of changing any of the tools or equipment there. Are your mobile devices and phone system okay? Your computer, the desk itself, if any needs charging, write a note about it and toss it into N. Desk drawers. Next, tackle the desk drawers if you have them. One at a time. Any attention on anything in there? Any actionable items? Is there anything that doesn't belong there? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, put the actionable item into N or write a note about it. Whether you use this opportunity to clean and organize the drawers or simply make a note to do it later will depend on how much time you have and how much stuff is in there. Countertops. Continue working your way around your office, collecting everything sitting on the tops of cabinets or tables or counters that doesn't belong there permanently. Often there will be stacks of reading material, mail reports, and miscellaneous folders and support material for action and projects. Collect it all. Maybe there is reference material that you've already used and just left out. If that's so, and if you have, if you can return it to the file cabinet or the bookshelf in just a second, go ahead and do that. Be careful to check with yourself, though, about whether there is some potential action tied to the material before you put it away. If there is, put it into N so you can deal with it later in the process. Inside the cabinets. Now look inside the cabinets. What's in there? These are perfect areas for stashing large supplies and reference materials, and equally seductive for holding deeper levels of stuff. Any broken or out of date things in there, often I'll find collectibles and nostalgia that aren't meaningful to the person any longer. One general manager can influence office, for example, wound up tossing out at least 3 dozen recognition awards he had accumulated over the years. Consider whether your collectible and nostalgic items are still meaningful to you. Okay, so again, if some of these areas are out of control and need purging and organizing, write that on a note and toss it into N. Floors, walls, and shelves. Anything on bulletin boards that needs attention, anything tacked onto the walls that doesn't belong there, any attention on your pictures, artwork, plaques, or decorations. How about the open shelves? Any books that need to be read or donated, any catalogs, manuals, or binders that are out of date or have some potential action associated with them, any piles of or stacks of things on the floor, just scoot them over next to your entry to add to the inventory. Equipment, furniture, and fixtures. Is there anything you want to do to or change about any of your office equipment or furniture or the physical space toilet? Does everything work? Do you have all the lightning you need? If there are item, ac- actionable items, you know what to do. Make a note and put it in other locations depending on the scope of what you're addressing in this process. You may want to keep some version of the same kind of gathering anywhere else you keep stuff. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, if you're determined to get to a really empty head, it's imperative you do it everywhere. Some people I work with find it immensely valuable to take me home with them or to a second office location and have me walk them through this process there as well. Often they've allowed this not so important trap to ensnare them in their home life and secondary workspaces, and it had gnawed away at their energy. This is not about throwing things away that you might want. People often mistake my advice as an advocacy for radical minimalism. On the contrary, if throwing something away is uncomfortable for you, you should keep it. Otherwise, you would have attention on the fact that you now don't have something you might want to or need. My counsel is how to assess and organize whatever you keep in order in your ecosystem so that it doesn't pull on your focus unnecessarily. In many areas, I'm a confirmed pack rat, such as with digital photos. The issues are simply how much room you have and that you have made the appropriate distinctions that don't leave embedded projects and actions submerged in what you're keeping. You like having and keeping your 12 boxes of old journals and notes for college. You like keeping all kinds of nutty toys and artwork and gadgets around your office to spur creativity thinking. No problem, as long as they are where you want them to be in the form they're in, and you have anything you want or need to do about that captured and processed your whole system. Mental gathering, the mind sweep. Once you feel you collected all the physical things in your environment that need processing, you'll want to collect anything else that may be residing in your mental realm space. What has your attention that isn't represented by something already in your tray? This is where the stack of plain paper really comes into play. I recommend that you write out each thought, each idea, and each project or thing that has your attention. On a separate sheet of paper, you could make one long list on a pad or in some digital application. But given how you live later, be processing each item individually, it's actually more effective on separate sheets. There is a discipline required initially to stay focused on one of them. One of them at a time as you process it. So giving each thought its own placeholder, as trivial as it might seem, makes it that much easier. And your first captured thoughts will seldom be the final content you'll want to track about it. The desired outcome and next action for it will be, you will likely not keep these places of paper, but it'll be handy to have them as discrete as items to deal with as you're processing. It will probably take you between 20 minutes and an hour to give yourself head onto separate notes. After you gathered everything else, you'll find that things will tend to occur to you in somewhat random fashion. Little things, big things, personal things, professional things, in no particular order. In this instance, go for quality. It's much better than overdo. Much better to overdo this process than to risk missing something. You can always toss the junk later. Your first idea may be implement global climate change, and then you'll think, I need cat food. Grab them all. Don't be surprised if you discover you've created quite a stack of paper in during the procedure. Triggers list. To assist in clearing your head, you may want to review the following in completion triggers list items by item to see if you've forgotten something. Often you'll just need a jog to unearth something lurking in the back of your mind. Remember, when something occurs to you, write it on a piece of paper and toss it into N. Incompletion triggers. Professional. Projects started, not completed. Projects that need to be started. Look into projects, commitments, promises to others, boss, partners, colleagues, subordinates, others in organizations, outside people, customers, other organizations, professionals, vendors, communications to make, get internal, external, initiate, or respond to, phone calls, voicemails, emails, text messages, letters, social media postings, other writing to finish, submit, reports, evaluations, reviews, proposals, articles, marketing materials, manual instructions, summaries, rewrites and edits, status reporting, conversation and communication tracking, meetings that need to be set, requested, who needs to know about what decisions, significant read review, financial, cash, budgets, forecasts, projections, profit and loss, balance sheet, forecasting, credit line, banks, receivables, payables, petty cash, investors, asset management, planning, organizing, formal planning, goals, targets, objectives, current projects, next stages, business plans, marketing plans, financial plans, organizational initiatives, upcoming events, meetings, presentations, conferences, organizational structuring, changes in facilities, installation of new systems, equipment, traveling, vacation, business trips, organization development, organization chart, restructuring, roles, job descriptions, facilities, new systems, leadership, change initiatives, succession planning, organization culture, marketing, promotion, campaigns, materials, public relations, administration, legal, insurance, personal, staffing, policies, procedures, training, staff, hiring, firing, promoting, reviews, communication, staff development, compensation, feedback, morals, sales, customers, projects, leads, lead sales process, training, relationship building, reporting, relationship tracking, customer service, systems, mobile devices, phones, computers, software. Databases, telecommunications, internet, filing and reference, inventory, storage, office, site, space, arrangements, furniture, equipment, decorations, utilities, supplies, maintenance, cleaning, security, meetings, upcoming, needing to be set, request, need debriefing, professional development, training, seminars, things to learn, things to find out, skills to practice, develop, books to read, study, personal projects, started, not completed, projects that need to be started, projects, other organizations, service, community, volunteer, spiritual organization, commitments, promises to others, partners, spouse, children, parents, research, formal education, license degrees, career research, resume, performance objectives, professional wardrobe, waiting for, information, delegated tasks, projects, completions, critical to projects, answer to questions, replies to emails, letters, proposals, calls, invitations, requisitions, reimbursements, insurance claims, ordered items, repairs, systems, repairs, tickets, decision of others, family, friends, professionals, returnable items, debts, communications to make, get, calls, emails, cards, and letters, thank yous, texts, social media posting, upcoming events, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, graduations, receptions, outings, holidays, vacation, travels, dinners, parties, cultural events, sporting events, administration, home office supplies, equipment, phone, mobile device, audio, video, media, voicemail, computers, software, and internet. Filing and recording, data storage pickup, leisure, books, music, video, travel, places to visit, places, people to visit, web browsing, photography, sports equipment, hobbies, cooking, recreation, financial, bills, banks, investments, loans, taxes, budget, insurance, mortgage, bookkeeping, accountants, pets, health, training, supplies, legal, wills, trusts, estates, legal affairs, family, projects, activities, partner, spouse, children, parents, relatives, home, household, real estate, no, again, repairs, construction, remodeling, landlords, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, utilities, roof, landscape, driveway, garage, walls, floors, ceilings, decor, furniture, appliances, lights and wiring, kitchen supplies, equipment, laundry, purging, organizing, cleaning, storage, service providers, health, doctors, dentists, optometrists, healthcare specialists, checkups, diet, food, exercise, personal development, classes, seminars, education, coaching, counseling, career, creative expressions, transportation, motor vehicles, bicycles, maintenance, repair, commuting, clothes, professional, casual, formal, sports, accessories, luggage, repairs, tailoring, errands, expands, shopping stores, hardware, supplies, groceries, gifts, pharmacies, banks, cleaners, repairs, community, neighborhood, neighbors, service, schools, other improvement, voting, waiting for product orders, repairs, reimbursement, loan items, information, RSVPs, projects, tasks completed by family, friends. The inventory. If your head is empty of everything, personally and professionally, then your in tray is probably quite full and likely spilling over. In addition to the paper-based and physical items in your in tray, your inventory of N should include any resident voicemails and all the emails that are currently staged in the N area of your communication software. It should also include any item on your organizer list for which you have not yet determined next action. Capturing is complete when you can easily see the outer edge to the inventory in everything that still has some of her attention in any way. I usually recommend that people transfer their voicemails onto paper notes and put those into their in trays along with any organizer notebook so they may have used the contents of which often needs significant reassessment. If you've been using a digital application for anything other than calendar and contact information, I suggest you print out any task and to-do list and put them too into your in tray. Emails are best left where they are because of their volume and the efficiency factor of dealing with them within their own subsystem. But in doesn't stay in. When you've done all that, you're ready to take the next step. You don't want to leave anything in for an indefinite period of time, because then it would without fail creep back into your consciousness, since your mind would know you weren't dealing with it. Of course, one of the main factors in people's resentment to collecting stuff into in is the lack of a good processing and organizing methodology to handle it. That brings us to the next chapter, getting in to empty. Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity, from the New York Times best-selling author David Allen. Turnpike Plaza, 365, Rec Squad.